Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm Susan James, Assistant Director here at Bayliss. Well, I'd like to introduce staff member Ashley Fonger, who is our MC for the open mic tonight. She's a writer who arranged Bayliss Library's first involvement with National Novel Writing Month this past November. Please welcome Ashley.
Just for starters, we did invite some people who participated in our National Novel Writing Month. There were 5 people that participated this year and 2 that reached 50,000 words in 30 days. So it was a really big accomplishment for the 2 people that finished, and those that participated did a lot of really good work too. And we look forward to next November, and we'll have information about that coming up next year, but that's a ways off. So I'll start off by introducing Elizabeth Schaefer.
So I got a question. Do you have any preference? We have winter as a topic. We have kitties as a topic.
I like kitties.
You like kitties? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have a lot of winter going on. Part of me's like, I like winter.
Well, I actually am very prolific in the winter, but you will tell from the poetry that it actually talks about the fact that, you know, winter is a little bit different. I came from Pennsylvania and the northeastern part of Pennsylvania, so it's not quite as cold there, though right now they have a lot more snow. My son's house back there has, I think, 18 inches on the ground, and he works as a surveyor. So he's doing a lot of crawling through. Okay, can you hear me good with the mic, or am I better without it?
With.
Okay. I also write, I write a lot of metaphorical poems. I write a lot, so I'm just pulling a few random ones tonight. And none of my work, by the way, is titled, so you don't have to worry about that. Friendly fur. It takes the sting out of a lonely night, not eliminating the sadness or erasing the pain altogether, but working as a balm against the pain of no one here but me. So many frustrations at furred hands, of frayed rugs, pulled furniture, of the greater upset of accidental moisture in the hall, or intentional spraying, or squatting, or digging in the cupboards, tends to make me forget what I now feel. But in the busyness of our hectic lives, it is easy to curse the puddles, the messes, the damage, and forget to love, to let oneself be loved, and to be content, remembering that cuddling together is the only tax we may have, the only taste we may have of heaven while still on earth. And rumblings deep within the beast, small furred creature that he is, reminds my heart to pause, to count the blessings on my doorstep and on my lap, to listen to the solace of quiet affection and contentment in a time of discontent. A sense of quiet sets in, encouraged by the silence of a winter world of snow. Cold, but not unbearable. Nonetheless, random sunlight, sparkling diamonds of dreams across the landscape. There is no heated passion here, yet silence in the trees, snow-cloaked and frosted, hints of a serenity and peace I had not hoped for, and frozen blessings grace the landscape with diamond dreams that lighten hearts, and the sound of wings from hidden feathered angels remind my heart that even life still flies in the canyons of my heart. Mary and Jim have heard this one before. In the quiet stillness of a white wonderland, of softly drifting snow, sparkling myriads of diamonds trapped down here below, there's a sense of waiting, bated breath, caught and frozen in the cold, waiting for heartbeat warmth to warm and glow to spring, forth in the opening buds and the burning sap, feeding souls and ground with hope of life again. Yet, after the gluttonous abundance of summer's warmth and glory, after the wild abandonment and riot of autumn's story, the peacefulness of winter is a solace to tired eyes, a place to rest one's soul in nothingness of light, brightness in the cold, and comfort in the unchangeable expanse of white, which nonetheless is shifting life, caught in the slow motion of winter's frozen moment, daring in an instant to blow away and redistribute all the wealth of white without a change of scenery or sense. Well, I guess I'm going to read one more winter one, but I'm going to finish off, if I can find it, with a little different one, because otherwise we're going to be visiting winter for the whole time. And I don't know if we have, Susan, is there like a standard number, or do we care?
Well, we have plenty of time.
Okay.
How many readers do we have?
We have 8.
Okay. They're short. Matter of fact, if I dig out the, slightly sarcastic funny one, then it's real short. Clean hills shining in the light, sun sparkling snow, trees stark-limbed against the sky, silence only broken by the cry of one lone hawk seeking sustenance for survival against the cold. So soars my soul, seeking food for thought, tranquilized, yet agonized by stolid winter's crisp sterility in sight and sound. Yet, the austerity aside, it soothes, beautiful, serene, if never green. Bear with me just a moment here. I have one more that's similar to winter, and then I'm going to try and either remember or dig out that little short, somewhat funny one. This is, I have, I don't know, 600, 700 poems, somewhere around. And a lot of my poetry I don't read very much because it's very metaphoric. And some of it seems to work while reading, and some of it people stare at me and they, huh. So this one's, a little, kind of a cross between the two. And into the naked silence of the room crept a whisper. Faint is the sound of falling snow, falling on ears too deaf to hear, wanting to be heard, and only silent angels heard the cry, and wept with one eye weeping as they prayed that gentle souls survive a blizzard born of unconcern and wasteful decadence. And falling snow blotted out the tracks of angel feet guiding sinners home after nights of revelry and vice. Too late we realized the shame of it. Too late we cried to mourn the time of wasted days and lonely nights. Yet when gentle sprites are buried in the snow, and whiteness locks both hearts and ponds in ice, and gentleness is overrun with vice and greed, the angels come, and softly walking home the sinners lost, the tempest tossed, they also warm the souls of wayward sprites. Bright, sparkling lights on moonlit snow are left behind as proof of grace and light. One of them starts, insanity runs in the family, and that's what we claim to be. But that's not the poem that I can find, so that's not the one you're going to get to hear.
Sounds good.
I work in a bunch of jobs, and and a lot of them have been in the helping professions, and so I've got to deal with the seamier side of life from time to time. But, you know, we're all a little crazy now and then. It's just how we tend to, you know, portray it to the world. We're all straight-laced. See me in a nice straight black skirt. Can't get any more straight-laced than that, can you? I used to wear this one to work. Insanity pulses a madman's beat as the blood pounds in my veins. Craziness haunts my doorstep, and nothing is as it seems. Oh. That's short enough, I'll try it again. Insanity pulses a madness beat as blood pounds in my veins, and the craziness haunts my doorstep, and nothing is as it seems.
You'll find no shortage of nervous people here tonight, including the people that are announcing. No worries. Our next speaker is Peter Gayankura.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The last time I wrote a poem was under the directions and instruction of a 6th grade teacher. And I had never been moved to write a poem, and I don't even know if what I'm going to read to you is considered a poem. But where we lived in this house for over 51 years, and where I sit in the kitchen, I face the window, and that exposes me to a grove of trees about 4 house lots down. Nothing interferes between me and those trees. And for 50-some, well, about late 40 years or so, I used to watch those trees as they blossomed in the spring and became full grown in the winter, I was in the summer. And then, of course, they went through their cycle. Watching this just about every day for all these years. One day, some years ago, I noticed that one of the grove of trees was not performing as well as Mother Nature had intended. Or maybe Mother Nature does intend, I don't know. And so I wrote this, and as I said, I don't know if it's in a category of a poem, because back then, in the 6th grade, our teachers insisted that everything should rhyme. Well, believe me, this does not rhyme. That's the background, and I call it The Tree. Through our kitchen window, I have seen the slow demise of a stately tree over the years, and I can sense and even hear what it is trying to tell me. A silent observer, a silent message, a soundless whisper. I know now I no longer can stand among my brothers and sisters, my companions. I can no longer be like them. Stand, yes, but I am now naked and lack the foliage dress of green that I look forward to every spring and shed my splendor in the fall. I am bare year-round now. My fellow neighbors glory in their cycle. I can no longer feel my leaves dance and wave when the wind and breezes come to play. What is to become of me? I know I will never be what I once was. Time has taken care of that. Perhaps I will linger with my naked limbs erect and face the sun and elements, but for how long? Will I be cut down and used to warm someone's home? Now that would be a kind and final gesture. And so another winter came, and my naked friend did not stand out as it did when his companions were in full dress. Winter is an equalizer. But now spring has sprung, and once again the lone, leafless tree stands out, distinct and colorless. It isn't dressed in greenery, it doesn't blend with its companions, but stands alone and solitary. Somehow it makes a statement. I can sense this as it muses. I'm not fully dressed, but this time I say, I'm still here. again, I don't know if this is in the category of a poem. Our first grandchild was a boy, and he was born in the Royal Oak area. And when he was about 3 years old, our daughter and son-in-law, and his name was Peters, was about 3. They moved to Alpena. They were there for 10 years. And fortunately, we didn't have to drive all the way to Royal Oak. Just a 2.5, 3-hour drive. We were at Alpena, and we were able to watch him grow as the months turned into years. And I remember the first time we went to see him, he was about 3. Quick, short steps could be heard coming down the hall toward the kitchen. Eager, bright eyes and an expression of anticipation covered his face, and his hair stood up like mini antennae. An extended hand grabbed mine. "Come," he said. "Come, let's play." How can one resist this bundle of energy? His tight grip pulled me behind him, and back up the hallway we went. At the end of the hall, a quick left, and there was the staircase. He quickly went up 2 steps, sat down, and demanded, "Sit, sit." And this I did next to him. His little feet then began to kick up and down, and he looked at me with a demanding voice. Do it with me." How can one resist this bundle of energy? So I did as he did, kicking my feet awkwardly but satisfactorily in his eyes. "Come," he said. And he grabbed my hand once again, and up the stairs we went straight into his bedroom. In the corner, a low entranceway led into another room. He skipped through it easily. I had to get on my aching knees to follow. And there I found the ceiling slanting as part of the house. On the floor, toys were waiting to be put to use. He immediately found a stove made of plastic, picked up plastic utensils, and began to cook imaginary dishes. "Soup," he said, "eat soup." He handed me a plastic bowl and spoon. How can one resist this bundle of energy? Going along, I took a sip, sputtered and gagged. "Hot," I said, "too hot." He laughed, his eyes twinkling with surprise at my response. He took the plastic bowl, blew on it, returned it to me, and gave a look of anticipation. A quick taste, and I exclaimed, "Cold, it's too cold." And again he laughed at my reaction. He grabbed my hand and said, "Come." We left his little playroom and went on to another adventure. How can one resist such a bundle of energy? On the way home, his grandmother and I reviewed our visit with nostalgia and the joy of being with our daughter, son-in-law, and first grandson. We both wondered out loud if we would have the pleasure of seeing him through high school. Would we be here to witness his high school graduation? And by the grace of God, Yaya and Papu came to see Pierce receive his high school diploma. How can one resist this bundle of determination? Onward and upward, Pierce. God bless you forever. That's it. I'll Greek to you, but the word Yaya is grandmother in Greek, and Papu is grandfather in English. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. Our next speaker is John Kehoe.
Hello. I'm not a poet. Very punta. And but anyway, my father when he was 12 years old. He would be about Peter's age right now. When he was 12 years old, he had a football accident and broke his leg, which was wrapped too tight. With the cast was wrapped too tight, and he developed gangrene and was actually dying of gangrene. And this. So anyway, that's the story of how the poem was started. And I get a little emotional when I do this thing, so please bear with me. So anyway, it's called What Rabbit Meant to Me. Now, Rabbit Moranville is I don't know if you've ever heard of him, he's a Hall of Fame third baseman, baseball third baseman. And so anyway, and my dad was a huge baseball fan. So anyway, and this poem was written in 1954 when Rabbit Moranville, the day that Rabbit Moranville died. So anyway, this is just so anyway, What Rabbit Meant to Me by Robert L. Keogh Sr. Rabbit Moranville was a famous man in 1933, but I was sick and needed help, so he came to visit me. He heard that life was fading fast from this boy he never knew. Yet he quickly went to my hospital bed to see what he could do. He learned that I loved baseball most, though football caused my doom. So he corralled some big league diamond stars to help dispel the gloom. As the cobwebs cleared my delirious head, I could scarcely believe my eyes when I saw Rab with his funny ears and those other big league guys. I was all agog. I looked around and saw fiery Frankie Frisch and Rip and Specs. Gosh, all at once, could a kid get such a wish? They stayed for just a moment because there wasn't much to say, but since I am alive to write these lines, they surely won that day. The rabbit was from that point on a friend most near and dear. Excuse me. He even brought me to the game that ended his career. I was thrilled to death at training camp to see his Boston team, whose pennant hopes depended much on Rab being on the beam. In spite of being 42, he was agile as a cat, and those who saw him hit that spring were dazzled by his bat. But alas, he stretched a hit too far, for he was plateward bound. When he struck Yank catcher Norman Keyes, a sharp and sickening sound. His leg was broke. I knew it once, because I remembered mine so well. But I couldn't help to ease his pain, so the tears just came and fell. The next day, by his hospital bed, I had a debt to pay, and thank my God, since it had to be, I could thank the Rab this way. In later years, he and I did seldom chance to meet, though our common bond and memory lived as our story we'd repeat. There were times when Rab would tell the kids what baseball had to give, then relate the yarn about the sickly boy who big leaguers helped to live. He never tired of building up. He always tried to sell the game of baseball for those kids whose hearts he knew so well. Now today I learned of Rab's death. My eyes have filled with tears. I recall the things he'd done for me these so many years. And I saw the scene at Waterfront Park as he lay there racked in pain. Then I thought how much I'd like to see those funny years again. Yet we will meet again, I'm sure, for the pattern is of yore. Rabbit just went on ahead to help me reach the heavenly shore. So anyway, that's, sorry about that. I can pass that around if you want to see that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for that, John. I wish I could rhyme that good.
I didn't do that.
I know.
All I did is not read it well.
But you read it well, so. Okay, so our next speaker is Jelena Rose.
I love you, Jelena.
Well, it's all about it, Jelena.
There we go.
want to thank John again for reading that. That was beautiful.
It was very nice.
I've written just a few poems about experiences I had when I was quite young. When I was 3, my parents were missionaries in Saigon, so in 1969. And what I have as a 3-year-old are primarily sensory memories. I don't have a sense of the politics or the sense of war, really. And in some ways, for writing poems, that's the good news. But it's also something that I continue to try to reconcile as my memories of a 3-year-old with images of the conflict over there. So I just want to share a few of those. The storm. In this poem, I guess I should point out that as part of the culture over there, anybody who was considered professional had a nanny and a housekeeper. So I had a nanny that gets mentioned in here. Her name is Fung. The storm. In the eye is quiet. Saigon River brown and heavy, bowed faces under coned hats, hunting by blue houses on stilts without doors. And in the streets, barely more. My parents go downtown. The gate to our compound swings open wide, then quickly shut. Rickshaws, handles down for riders in. Rickshaws, handles up for riding away behind curved backs, bare feet, and short pants. Today in the eye, Kat had her kittens, and Fung, who speaks 13 languages, takes me to market through mud alleys, then home, lifts me into a chair and opens the pink language book left behind by my parents. Heavy rains now on the roof, fans flipping overhead, barely more. She points to the picture of a house, then to words. House in English, la maison in French, donc tu in Vietnamese. House made with words in a house with few words. There in the eye, I learned to squat for hours while I played with the girl next door. I turned 4, and I wished for a long boat, a house on the river without doors, and a coned straw hat to cover my face. The streets. I have an epigraph here. It's a translation of a Vietnamese poem by a poet whose name I respect too much to try to pronounce at this point. But the epigraph reads like this. They rage and rave, caress and soothe. They shout and roar, lie still or hushed. The stream can't understand its waves. They leave and find their way to the sea. In Saigon, walking in the public gardens or squatting under a canvas awning, selling coned hats and green bananas, the ladies wear silk and smile all day long. Night falls. The air cools. The soup man pushes his bamboo kitchen, spicy ginger chicken, ladles with one hand, sticky rice with mango, calls to his customers. They play ping pong in the courtyard, and he stays out there with them calling, spicy ginger chicken. Or they pace at their windows, sticky rice with mango. Or they fight over mahjong, hue noodle soup. Then rapid fire response, perimeter skirmish, napalm bloom. Men rush down the alley under my window, wooden soles beating a rhythm home, home to their wives, their sleeping children. My father wasn't in the military, but as a missionary, he often during the day would make day trips outside of Saigon to other cities, and though we didn't really know what was going on at our age. We knew that Dad was gone and we were anxious for him to come home. So this one is called My Father Coming Home. Most nights in our compound, it's the fan humming over my bed that I fall asleep to, but not until 2 last night or 3 the night before. I watch silk strung balcony to balcony, floating under fire in the orange morning sky. I listen to my fan, and for my father coming home in the alley under my window. One paddle is out of balance. The center rocks a little until I close my eyes. This one is called Turning 4. Not everyone can say it happened under the palms and politics of Saigon. A big pink paper bag on the car floor between my parents, one wheel showing, a dolly stroller. Did I know that then, or was it a puzzle put together later after I'd unwrapped the dolly shipped by my grandmother from California? The kind with the mouth locked in permanent ooh, so the bottle would click in and stay. Tiny socks that didn't stay on, plaid dress, pink lemonade, and a bakery cake. The same day they picked up my gift, they picked up a letter. In the noisy stop-and-go traffic of mopeds, rickshaws, and taxis, Mom held it in one hand, leaned on the window, read out loud, looked at my father, looked out the window, and cried what were for me her first tears. We passed 4 monks in orange silk robes praying at a flower-shrouded shrine on a street corner. I sat in back and watched the wheel turn on its own. All the letters announcing returns from Vietnam, and now we had one too. Soldiers of Christ called home, our tour of duty cut short. Families awaited the return of what was left of their sons. We landed in San Diego late, but safe. As we left the airport in the dark, my grandmother held me, cried, and pulled Kleenex from a beige vinyl holder that straddled the center of their big beige car. My mother cried in the back seat for a battle lost, a battle barely begun. I turned 4 in Saigon. My mother felt alive there. I never read that out loud. This last one is not about Vietnam, it's about becoming a grandma. And I've struggled for several months about how to write that well. Grand. I knew we would be okay the moment I knew you were here. The moment your papa telegraphed the picture, camera shaking as he snapped. Blue glove of a nurse cleaning your perfect body, every wrinkle and fold on your legs singing health. You. You, screaming at the lights, pink-skinned, spread-eagled, flailing to return to the walls of your dark, warm womb. And here, a state away, my own grown son came from his room half-dressed to wrap me in his warm hug, while I cried. I didn't expect this, sorry. She's here. Thank God, you are here, both of us safe, in this cracked but healing, broken-hearted family.
We just welcomed the nephew in our family, so she's got me worked up a bit. Good poetry, we'll do that. Our next speaker is Phil Danstill.
Tough acts to follow. Thank you for all the poems, everybody. And thank you to Superior Poetry Cafe for organizing all this. It's a great opportunity. I have 2 short poems. One is about July. It's an anniversary poem, wedding poem. 39th anniversary, hard to believe. And the second poem is a December poem. So I'll read the July poem first. Matrimonial. Late July, it rained, then cleared, and then we wed. I in my serviceable black suit, your dark hair in a controlled tumble down your sleek white gown, tiny lace patterns whispering as we walked into our unknown love. Now, we walk into our July garden, sit on Adirondacks, watch webs connect daisies and rocker arms, festoon mugo pines. At dawn, tidy woven patterns breathe in corners, in niches, quiet, cool, and dark, like our furtive, lace-worthy love. I should have said, the 39th anniversary, the traditional gift or theme, I guess, is lace.
That's nice.
Second poem is about the solstice, December 21st. And it's in the form of a sonnet. Solstice song. I should mention that there are three phrases here. There's the French phrase for solstice, the German phrase, and the Chinese phrase for solstice. Solstice song. The old Celts thought midwinter's sun stayed still for 12 days. Bonfires ate their darkness. Now, Mayans remain mute. The Pope tweets his faith on this shortest day, longest night. Solstice d'hiver. Winter Sonnenwende. Dongzi. Thunder snow pounds the ravine, puts my circadian rhythm on hold. We have a new kitchen clock. Sleek silver disc fixed above the bulky silver fridge, tick-tock, moving the dark, looming toward a fearful but delicate asymmetry, locking in the sun's eternity at 6:12 a.m. Thank you.
So nice to hear something about summer. Our next speaker is Mary Cooley.
We had so many different kinds of poems and stories tonight, and it's been just a pleasure. Today, as I was thinking about what did I want to do here tonight, I decided to read my poem, one of mine, one of someone that I thought is just a great poet, and then to share a Peter, Paul, and Mary song, because really the poetry I grew up on was Peter, Paul, and Mary. This is about my son Tommy. Oftentimes at night we talk long into the night, 3 hours at a time maybe. And so one night he said a phrase to me, and I thought that'd make a good poem. So here it is. It's called Good People, Tommy and Jesus. We know bad things happen to good people. Good things should happen to good people. We resolve being good people ourselves that good things should happen to good people. Rapidly and randomly, good things should happen to good people unexpectedly and wonderfully. Let us not get tired of doing good. Jesus said that. For we are good people. Let us do good to everyone. Because we are good people, good things should happen to good people. Let us say to one another, you are a good person, and I know bad things have happened to you. Now, let this good I do come from me to you, for I am a good person. Tommy said that. Now let me be part of the good things that happen to good people. Randomly, unexpectedly, rapidly, wonderfully. Why? Because we are good people. This is, interesting enough, a poem by D.B. Steinman. Now you might not know who that is, but he's the person who designed the Mackinac Bridge. And there is a poetry book here in this library that you can get out full of his poems. But this one came actually from the 50th anniversary Mackinac Bridge book, and that's also in this library, so you can get that out too. And I'm only going to say a couple little parts. It's a very long poem, and I'm going to read the parts that are highlighted because they sing to me of beauty. A poem in steel, a dream span on bedrock, a symphony in metal and stone, the mystical union of beauty and strength. A lyric pattern etched against the blue, God working through man to confute the powers of evil and to add another stanza to the hymn of creation. And I'm going down a ways, and that's going to say, the light gleams on my strands and bars. In glory, when the sun goes down, I spread a net to hold the stars and wear the sunset as my crown. And then it says, it rises from the waves on the shining strands to arch across the sky in lofty grace. There is timeless strength in those towers, and poetry and the cable-borne span. The two are harmoniously joined. It is no accident that the Mackinac Bridge is a thrill to the beholder. To lift the heart with pride and the soul with thankful prayer, it was planned that way. That is why the Mackinac Bridge will endure. That is why the Mackinac Bridge is majestic. And that is why the Mackinac Bridge is beautiful. Without the vision, faith, and courage of the people of Michigan, their leaders, their statesmen, their workers, this great bridge could never have been built. This is going to be a song, so I guess I'll take this out of camera. So how'd you do it? I really love Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I grew up with them from the time that I was very little. I don't remember ever a time that I didn't listen to Peter, Paul, and Mary. So some of you will know Peter, Paul, and Mary, and some of you won't, and this will be an experience for you. So here it goes. I'm going to sing you the song, All My Trials. All my trials, Lord, soon be over. I had a little book that was given to me, and every page spelled liberty. All my trials, Lord, soon be over. If religion were a thing that money could buy, the rich would live and the poor would die. All my trials, Lord, soon be over. Too late, my brothers, too late, but never mind. All my trials, Lord, soon be over. There is a tree in paradise, the pilgrims they call it, the tree of life. All my trials, Lord, soon be over. All my trials, Lord, soon be over.
Thank you for that. A little bit of music. We'll have Jim Cooling up next. I don't know why you even sat down. You
No. You know, there's so many stories growing up in a small town. And there was a barber shop down by the river. And the outside of the barber shop was a sign that said Dutch Haldeman's Barber Shop, fishing equipment bought, sold, and traded. And being 14 years old, I had arranged with Dutch Haldeman to leave half of my papers at his barbershop, and then I would pick them up, and then I could carry them around to the other part. I wouldn't have to carry the whole thing. Oh, I thought I was so clever. But angels rush in where men fear to tread. And so I burst into the barbershop with great news. Now Dutch Haldeman is back there. He's giving a fella a haircut, and it looked like a city fella to me. He had on a bow tie. I wondered if he knew that Dutch Haldeman was the town fire chief, and that if the fire whistle went off, Dutch would leave him with half a haircut or half a shave, and run across the street, and he could either wait for the fire to get out or maybe come back tomorrow. I wondered if he knew that. But and all the town characters are lined up, sitting in the chairs there beside the knee-high pop machine, and you burst in, and there's this uncomfortable silence, you see, because they're waiting for the punchline, you see. And being 14 years old, they're not going to tell you the punchline about the farmer's daughter, and they're all waiting, you see. And they look at you like they're waiting for you to leave so they can all hear the story that they've been working up on. But I had great news. Oh yes. I burst into this fraternity of wonderful old men with the news. I found out who my great-grandfather was. I was so excited. And Dutch, he's back there cutting hair, and the Irish setter is sleeping underneath this extra chair there. And I said, my great-grandfather was Brick Smalley. Dutch shut off the clippers. There's silence. And Dutch looked at me and growled, kind of like a German shepherd. He goes, Brick Smalley. I thought, what have I done? What have I done? And he turned to Roy Decker. He was the justice of the peace. Got around town on a riding lawnmower because he had one leg. And so that's how Dutch is there. And he goes, Roy, do you know Brick Smalley? And Roy launched into his justice. Well, looky here, boy, let me tell you about Brick Smalley. And then Winnie Phillips, who I'd never heard anything out of. Winnie Phillips, who spent most of his time whittling on a green ash stick. Winnie Phillips jumped up and he goes, I'll tell you about Brick Smalley. And I was thinking, what have I done? What have I done? And I looked up, and there was one fella there. He jumped up out of a chair. He started telling me the sins of my great-grandfather. And the only thing we'd ever knew about that guy was he made a diet of fish out of the river. And he had a constitution he could melt down a lead bar. The only person I ever knew who could live on carp and suckers out of the Looking Glass River. He's now telling me about the sins of my great-grandfather. And all this, finally, Brick Smalley is my hero. He built Round Lake Road. But wait, I had no idea these old men knew him, you see. And Dutch, he waves for a halt. And he looks at me and he goes, Brick Smalley owes me 25 bucks, kid. Said, he took my best fishing rod, he owes me 25 bucks, kid. And I knew that I should now repeat the famous actions of the early Army of the Potomac. I should advance to the rear, you see, on the double quick. And so I began to back out of the barbershop as quickly as I could, to the chorus of these old men yelling at me about all the sins of my great-grandfather. And I grabbed my paper bag and I ran down the road, the paper bag bouncing against my knee, and Brick Smalley echoing in my head. And Dutch Haldeman, he opens up the door. I can hear the bells ringing on his door, and he yells out, 25 bucks, kid! And as I'm going down the road, I remembered that never again do you ever go in and mention the name Brick Smalley to any group of old men and never mention that I somehow inherited a debt of $25 to Dutch Haldeman.
Thank you for that, Jim. our last speaker for tonight is Jane Gordon.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Yay me! I should clap for you because you clap for everybody else. I'm not a microphone person either, and I'm just going to talk loud because I can. I did my thesis with Jelena for a year because she loves me and she let me take my time. And I wrote my thesis on baseball. Almost all my poems are about baseball. When I had gone to meet with her to discuss how the thesis was going to go, I said, all I did this summer was raced, barrel raced, hung out with my now husband and my niece, and I watched baseball, and I didn't miss a single game, and that's what I did. And I thought about how baseball is like life. What can we do? And she said, I think we can work with this. I think you can take different moments, and I think you can craft them into different ways. And if I had to think of that on my own, I would have been like, that is not gonna work. But Jelena had such faith in me that I decided I could do it. And so I brought the whole thing here because I love it, and I spent a whole year with it, and I'm proud of it, and I like to show it off. And only other writers will be like, oh, that's really good, good for you. But other people are like, that's a lot of paper. So anyway, I had debated today which poems I was gonna read, and I was gonna read my favorite poem, and then I practiced reading in the car, and I started crying twice. And I thought, oh, I can't read it. And but I love this poem. It's my favorite. It's the best one in here. So, but I'm not gonna start here. No, I better start here. I'm gonna start here. It's called Pastimes of Our Pastime. Fishing. I love fishing. I suppose you could say I grew up fishing. Someone was always taking me fishing. My grandpa, my dad, just me and my brother, or the whole family. Step-siblings, my mom, and our dog. When we moved to Michigan, fishing became more of a project. No longer as simple as a walk down to the river or a nearby lake. It became a commitment. Hooking the boat up to our car, heading down to the boat launch. The magic that is backing a trailer into the water and freeing the boat from the trailer. And then a boat ride to our fishing spot. Many a long sunny afternoon was spent on some bay, Ashman, Manascon, Back Bay, fishing and listening to baseball. To a little girl, it's not that interesting, unless maybe she was lucky. Lucky enough to listen to a man by the name of Ernie Harwell. He sounded so nice, so matter-of-fact happy. He was a grandfather I never had. How could I not fall in love with that old, gentle, nice man and Detroit Tiger baseball? His voice was both soothing and interesting, calming and factual, and so many familiar, amusing expressions. He stood there like a house by the side of the road. That ball is long gone. And our family favorite, it's over but low. He painted such a picture. It helped me understand the game. He had a gift, and like a preacher saving souls, he infused us all with his love of baseball. I can't tell you a single score, let alone describe a series, but I remember being in a motel room and watching Jack Morris pitch his now famous no-hitter. We were in Traverse City on a shopping trip, and I know the motel had a pool because we always stayed somewhere with the pool. I stared at the brown and orange shag carpeting when the game was slow. I remember how happy my daddy was and how long Jack's legs looked, and thinking how much Lance Parrish must love him to hold that big, big man right off the ground. I loved the Tigers so, and in my child's mind, there was nothing wrong with cheering for both teams during the first game that my daddy took me to see at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome at home in beautiful downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota. In my mind, I still see my dad eating popcorn, shoving it in by the handful, yelling, "Lou, Lou, Lou!" as sweet Lou Whitaker stepped up to the plate. That year, I learned how to keep score. Daddy bought us a scorecard, and with the stubby little pencil, explained a complicated code that would later tell us every play that happened in the game. Special care was taken to keep the card clean, unbent, and completely accurate. Whoever said baseball is boring never learned how to keep score. I kept those cards for years. I wish I still had them. The way I feel about loyalty is this. It has to be earned. And depending on how much work is put into earning it, that's where its strength comes from. Time and other circumstances have made holes in my memory, large blank spaces that I accept unhappily. I made a mistake in overzealously cleaning and discarding the only proof that my daddy and I sat in the Metrodome, sharing popcorn, drinking soda from plastic Gary Gaudi cups, and cheering for the Tigers and the Twins. Years later, I learned what a crazy idea it was to do that. My youthful love of baseball and my new Tiger fandom became rock solid after just 1 year in 1984. Every Tiger fan knows what a great year that was. Willie Hernandez, our relief pitcher, won both the Cy Young and the American League's Player of the Year award. The Tigers led the division the entire season, never once falling into second place. Not easy when a season consists of 162 games. It stands as the 4th best in team history. It was a whirlwind, and it was incredible. I gave myself to them with wild abandon. At night, as I lay in bed, I would recite their names and the positions they played. They were my Tigers, and I loved them all. I can still recite names, not because I have something to prove, but because they're important to me. In my head, or maybe in my heart, I can still hear Ernie Harwell naming them. The names coming with a fondness, a sort of energetic incantation. How can you not be ecstatic when your team wins the World Series? Just years earlier, I'd watched my Vikings lose the Super Bowl, and that defeat is still a sharp pain somewhere. But I saw the 1984 Tigers play, and no one and nothing will ever take that away from me. I remember them. I remember that summer, those long hours on that boat, listening to that gentle grandfatherly old man, or the thrill of sitting in a new stadium and learning, my dad and me and baseball. I let time to take all the other memories from me. It's for the best. I might not have them all together, all at once, or the way that I'd like them, but I still have my memories and my dad and baseball. Thank you. I'm so happy you read it, because I really want to, because I just love it. I can't read that one because it's all about Ernie Harwell and I'll cry the whole time. This is the one I read when Jelena asked me to read this fall during the American League Division playoff series. We were playing the Yankees, and it was a cute moment for me because I was talking to Jelena, and who's also my advisor besides being my thesis advisor, and Dr. Gordier, who's the dean of our department, about the fact that I had been sitting in my car in the parking lot listening to the game, and I only came inside because I was hungry and I had to go to the bathroom. And I said, but I'm here, but I'm missing the game, and I just want you guys to know I'm checking Twitter all the time. This is really difficult for me. And it was really cute because Dr. Gordier looks around like it's an emergency, like it's a serious problem. She goes, is there a classroom somewhere we could put her in where she could watch the game? You know, I'm like, I'm here to be social, I need to meet people. I don't actually have to watch baseball all the time, like literally. The game will happen with or without me. But that particular game, the catcher for it was Gerald Laird, who we have subsequently traded and broken my heart, who we traded actually to the Atlanta Braves. And I'm happy for him, but he's a really nice guy and he's a really good player, and I'm a big fan of his. And he was catching this particular game, which we did end up winning, while I was reading my poem about him. This poem's called Good Catch. Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and saying my glory was I had such friends. W.B. Yeats. Sports represent so many ideals. The slogans spring from tradition, convey an understanding of why teams command loyalty, the religious following, season after season. Devotion is rewarded in small moments, a surprise that brings satisfaction each time that moment is recalled. Watching a rookie play in his first major league game, or watching the last game of a veteran player's long career. Bonds in sports are powerful. Connections are formed beyond the moments on TV. I am lucky. I watch enough baseball to have seen that bond, the connection between a pitcher and his catcher. The pitcher bears an enormous responsibility. He knows what to do and how to do it. The catcher must be humble enough to accept that. Pitching is an amazing art form. It is power and grace all at once. The strength and force of each pitch is incredible because the motion begins and ends with the pitcher balanced on one foot. The movements of each pitcher are different, but a good catcher knows all his pitchers. I enjoy watching Tigers Live, a show featuring various aspects of the organization. The first episode I'd seen was co-hosted by Gerald Laird, G Money, the veteran catcher of the 2010 Tiger staff. He talked about them, the small moments, ways he can tell during the game if a pitcher is having trouble, how he calms his pitcher down, be it telling jokes or a quick pep talk. During a game in Minnesota, June 28, 2010, I was lucky enough to see the power of the bond between our pitcher, Joel Zumaya, Zoom, and our catcher, G Money. Zoom throws hard, fast, routinely reaching 100 miles an hour, and as high as 104 miles an hour. Most pitchers throw between the low 80s and the mid 90s. Zoom threw a pitch so hard he broke his arm. A non-displaced fracture of the olecranon, his elbow. That is not what amazed me that day. I watched the game on my DVR. I can't say how many times I rewatched it. What I remember most is that G Money ran for the mound out to Zoom as soon as the pitch was thrown. G Money knew the moment the ball left Zoom's hand that something was terribly wrong. Innumerable slogans, hundreds of hours of practice are summed up by that memory. The image of Laird flinging his catcher's mask to the ground, rising to his feet, glove dropping in the dirt as his friend Joel doubled over, his face contorted with pain, before anyone else even knew there was a problem. That instinct is what fuels my devotion to the team. Who won't want to be part of a relationship like that?
Wanted to thank everyone for coming down and sharing a bunch of very great and emotional and wonderful things with us tonight. I hope to see most of you at our next poetry event.
February 26th, I believe.
February 26th.